Stream. Oh, great. Gotta mute my computer. That's a good start so
Very
far.
nice.
Classic. Today, we just wanted to talk about what happened is actually Donald Kent yesterday had posted an interesting comment in the whack chat over on Telegram. And I think it's kind of something that a lot of people have been feeling for a long time. So I thought it'd be kind of good to just have a discussion, just invite people on from, audience and artist and whatever to come on and discuss these things because I've been feeling it. I think a lot of people have been blackpilled and just trying to figure out what's going on with the overall movement and how the arts relate to that. A lot of people in these spheres, WAC and other organizations and just artists who are adjacent and whatnot. So anyway, I was just going to start out very quickly I'm going to read what Donald posted yesterday so that people can get an idea of what exactly kind of the framing for the discussion is. So Donald said, I feel like the movement has become a gigantic social club, not trying to be a downer, and I love my friends in the movement, but I feel like we are diverting most of our energy into socializing, hot takes, news reactions, philosophizing, etc. I'm not referring to maintaining our social emotional health. Of course, we need that, but I don't see any significant change/progress. I'm looking for the next chapter of the movement, implementing strategy, producing measurable results. I don't have time, energy, nor the inspiration to keep doing what we are doing unless I see a clear path to success. Yes, I'm deeply frustrated with this, but not pointing the finger at anyone. Please share your thoughts on this topic. All right. So anyway, a bunch of people chimed in on that. It was like the most active the whack chat over on Telegram has been for quite a while, and a lot of people had a lot of thoughts. So I wanted to do this stream so we could invite people on to kind of discuss this because I think it's important. It's been that way for a while. Just general overall, I don't know. It seems like since last fall, people started getting kind of blackpilled. I don't know exactly what it was. I know here in the States, like the Biden administration started really like cracking down on people. And I think it became clear that maybe that had something to do with that. I was thinking about it earlier. But also just that kind of thing. But also it seems like just the movement, quote unquote, like kind of stalled perhaps. But I know with WAC particularly, we like at the end of last year, there were some doxings and different things like that. And things were going really well. And then support seemed to kind of like drop off toward the end of last year in a number of ways for what the kind of stuff we were doing. And we've been trying to adapt to that. But I just want to quickly give my thoughts on what Donald said and kind of my personal feelings on where stuff is real quick. And then I'll let other people chime in and give their perspective. So my thing is this, right? Everybody talks about the movement, and usually when they're talking about the movement, they're talking about the overwhelmingly political side of what is happening. The groups that are largely the influencers, the podcasters who are creating like mostly political content. That seems to me to be the case. What most people are talking about, and I feel like ever since the political and these ideas are what drew me first to these spheres. And there really wasn't much of an art scene or an art movement going on. There was stuff, but it wasn't really super predominant. There was not a lot of stuff happening, which is why I started WAC to begin with, and to try to like foster more of a community of artists and encourage people to come together, kind of create people like-minded people making similar kind of art, etc. But I feel like we're basically the artistic side of things has always been under the wing of the political, or at least we act like that. We look that way, like we're looking to these guys like we're under their wing. And I just think that's not the right way to understand it. Like the arts and culture sphere, I believe it has to stand on its own. It's its own thing. Artists are a different archetype than the kind of people who are generally interested in and get involved in politics and talk about politics all the time. There is overlap, of course, and the flip side of that is that a lot of those people, a lot of the people that we would say are in the movement, quote unquote, don't really understand the arts. They don't really understand the mechanics, so to speak, of how art and culture works. So they're not ever going to be able to like really support it or push it in the way that it has to be built up and pushed. That's really up more to the people who really are in the art and culture sphere to build our own organizations. And another part of this is to professionalize them, because we can't, this is something I've been trying to work on, figure out with WAC, is like, you can't just do this voluntarily forever. Like you can't go up against what we're up against. We can't take back our culture with volunteer power. It's just not realistic. A lot of people have this kind of like idea, this, you know, it's a very kind of pie in the sky, like, oh, people do it. You create art for the love of art. But the reality is, you have to have mechanisms, you have to have organizations that can distribute what people do, that can promote what they do, that there's real funding behind it. And those things are absolutely necessary to have a real art movement. That's just a fact. And a lot of people don't like that. They think you're a grifter if you suggest that we should be able to try to make money and that we should get people to invest money in it. But that's just how it is, especially in the way things are set up now. You basically have to vote with your dollars to support if you want to see more of something. So those are some of the basics of my view on this. And my thinking and the direction I would like to go more with WAC and a new entity we're working on, WAC Media, is to focus more on higher end production, to not do, you know, like, I think just people generally in the modern era, people are more focused on you want to create a lot of something. Like, people do a lot of podcasting, people release a lot of stuff. We need to get back, in my opinion, and this is what I'm going to be doing, is focusing on doing more things that are, fewer things that are of a higher quality, that really stand out, and that really, like, not just anybody could have made that film, not just anybody could make that song. I didn't just spit it out. I really took my time to craft it properly. And I personally think that's the direction that the overarching movement art side of it, again, the art and the political, I think should be viewed as separate entities. That's what we have to do. We have to professionalize. We have to make the highest possible quality stuff that we can, and we have to build our own structures for distributing it and getting it out there and promoting it. And it's up to us. Like, the political guys cannot help us do that. I mean, they can, on some level, they can be like, yeah, good job, thanks, but like, they don't, it's not their thing. They don't fully understand it. It's just, they're not ever going to be able to help us take that where it needs to go. We have to take it there by building our own stuff up. So anyway, I think that basically covers my general viewpoint on it, and I can go through more stuff as we go along. But I want to go ahead and guys, I appreciate if everybody just, you know, obviously be respectful, try to be concise as much as you can. But let's go ahead and bring somebody else in here to say their piece. Wolfshield, you were here early on. Let's you go ahead. Then Hyreth can go after you.
Wow. Dave just revving his car.
Dave, can you mute? Can you mute?
Hold up. Let me try and mute. Can you guys hear?
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave. I guess I don't know. I'm not always the best at kind of putting together cogent thoughts, so I'll try to do my best. But for me, I don't know. I personally am not very black-pilled, and I don't even really understand why other people are black-pilled, to be honest. Like, I mean, when I think about like when I joined this movement, I don't remember exactly how long ago that was, like 4 or 5 years ago or something like that. And you just kind of compare the state of what it was like then versus how much like progress and stuff has been accomplished, you know, networking and different like groups forming and whatnot. And it's just like such a huge, you know, there's just been so much progress, you know, and then like I saw this poll the other day, and so it says, this is from the Daily Mail. It says 73% of Trump voters think Democrats are trying to replace white people with immigrants and people of color who share their political views. Shocking new poll finds. I mean, that's huge. I mean, like, I think, like, that's kind of like a cringe. It, to a certain degree, it's kind of cringe the way that it's phrased. But I mean, that's kind of where I was at like 3, 4 years ago. I kind of believed the same thing. But I think it's undeniable how much progress we're making, like like the way that like the word anti-white has like permeated into like the larger sphere from like like Ron DeSantis using the word, and I'm not really like too black pilled about the state of whack. Also, I think that there's just not a lot being made in whack right now. So obviously there's going to be less interest when there's not really like a lot going on. But I do think I agree with Jeff is that if we start focusing on making quality things that are and that's the most important thing is creating something of quality. And I think the focus of making less, to focus on making something good is a very good strategy. Where everything, all movements and stuff have ebbs and flows, and we're just kind of like in a ebb, I think, an ebb or a flow, whatever is the down one. And but I have no doubt that we're gonna like come back from it, and we have plans. We have big plans right now for some major projects that, frankly, I think are gonna really get people to focus on us. And so I'm not too worried about it. I'm quite the opposite. I'm very optimistic. I'm very white pilled. But that's just kind of where I'm at. But yeah, I'll let Hyra take it from now.
Oh, yeah, I don't really, I'm not, it's hard for me to articulate my thoughts on this because I have so many of thoughts on this. And there's so many layers to just the concerns that Donald had in his initial post that for those of you who are just joining us, that's what prompted like this whole stream and everything. And there was a big discussion in the WAC chat on Telegram yesterday about just the state of things and just the lack of support and how there's so many different factions, but people feel like we're not really going anywhere. Not like WAC, but just like the movement at large is and stuff like that. And I don't even know if I would really call it a movement, honestly, because right now it's like everybody's split off into all these different subgroups, and we might have common interests, but we also have different interests too, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like especially when it comes to like art and the political side of things, like what Jeff was saying, how we do need to kind of be standalone, away from politics. Not that like artists shouldn't create things that align with their political views if they choose to do that or it works for them. That's totally up to them. But as like a organization of artists, being apolitical is probably more ideal, I think, especially because there's so few of us in the dissident sphere, if you want to call it that. I'm not really sure what it's called these days. But anyways, I don't want to like go too much into, I'm sure I'll probably have more to say as other people talk, but I do want to read a little bit of something that someone posted in my chat, Plebs. He had a really thoughtful message, and it was just thoughts on all of this. So should I read that now, or do you want me to do that after everyone else has said their piece, Jeff?
Let's let other folks who are on here go ahead and say their piece, but we'll definitely touch on some of that here in a minute.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'll hand it over to Cat Hugger.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the thing I thought about is that art is, of course, a luxury. In terms of society, it's something that happens late, and we are suppressed. So I think it's natural that the priorities of the people are more with the political and with power and self-sustaining, sustaining themselves, the parallel economy, than with art. On the other hand, art is pure optics, and it's the only sphere where we used to gain until a very short while ago. The meme wars were, of course, art wars, and this was done with people that were creative, and this is very fertile ground because Global Homo art is just horrendous, and what they produce is very, very unappealing. So it is a place to gain on, and we have to remember that, like I said, people connect to things emotionally more than they connect to them rationally. And art, like icons, architecture, they convey a certain message, and this is how more people were gained than through philosophy and ideas. But then the question is, when we build up barriers, like Jeff suggested, that we want to be more of quality and not quantity, we will reduce participation. But maybe we will increase the quality. But then, for whom? How will we share it? How can we bring our art to the eyes that are hungry to see this? And then my last thought was, we have to think to what purpose we make art. Do we make it to recruit, like I said? Or do we make it to remoralize people? Or do we make it because there is a hole where art should be, and we try to fill it just because we need something beautiful that is relevant to our current situation? And the last thing I wanted to say is that we are, as artists, to our people right now, the most valuable, and we hold the highest purpose as propagandists and as memers. And I think that's something many of us try, and there is this whole new art style on the right, this flash wave style, synthwave kind of art. Well, it's not new, it's a few years old, but this is something that many people go into. But I think it's wasted when it's just an image posted on their channel, and it's nice for people to enjoy, but then should it not be a poster? Should it not be a sticker? So yeah, these are the questions I think we should think about.
Excellent. Yeah, a lot of great points there. Al, you want to throw your thoughts in there?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot, but I think probably the main reason why things seem stagnant or have stalled, at least in our artistic sphere, is people have been talking about it, just with the hyperinflation and everything. So I'm looking back to like winter, early spring of last year, and I was totally black-pilled, right? Like we had all the lockdowns and mandates and stuff, and that was like at the height at that point of the anti-white oligarchs enforcing their slave system crap on us. And so I was totally black-pilled, right? But then Whackfest was announced, and it totally removed me from that black pill. And I think everything happens in like cycles and in a rhythm, right? So I think we're in a transitionary phase of the pendulum swinging, right? So we had them institute all their lockdowns and mandates and all that crap, right? And for a while we were on the defensive and they were on the offensive. And then we snapped out of it and we responded by being on the offensive, right? And Whackfest happened, and so many good things happened in our sphere last year. It was really, I mean, probably the best year yet, to tell you the truth, for Whack. And then now it's like they've kind of backpedaled from their narratives, and now they've started their little war, and now we're in the next phase of their offensive, and now we're kind of on the defensive. And so, at least for me, it's really hard to be in a creative state and producing content when I feel like people had talked about it in the Telegram chat yesterday about being in survival mode, right? So I think the pendulum has swung back to their favor, where they're now on the offensive, we're in the defensive, and it's, at least for me, it's really hard to create. But again, everything happens in cycles and in a rhythm. So eventually the pendulum will swing back in our favor. It can't not swing back. You know what I mean? So I think we're in a transitionary phase. And also, too, I think, you know, leading up to WhackFest last year, I think Whack was still in its fledgling stage. And I think we've reached a point where it was kind of a bad timing, but I think WhackFest last year was where we finally stepped out of our fledgling stage. We had our big IRL event, and we moved into our next phase, right? But it was kind of at an unfortunate time, coinciding with their, you know, the anti-whites, their new offensive against us, I guess. So I think the pendulum will swing back in our favor. It's a matter of time, honestly.
Yeah, I think a lot of good points there. Definitely. Dave, I believe you're up, my friend.
All right, can you guys hear me okay?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So I'm picking up my kinsman. We're gonna have a little bit of a barbecue. So all right, I got a lot to say about all this, but I'm gonna try to keep it succinct. So I actually completely reject the idea that art is a luxury. I reject this because we can observe that some of the best and the most profound comes out of times where there was great struggle, right? When there was economic depressions, wars, tyrannies, these kinds of things generate some of the best art you can think of, right? What's that Russian guy, the composer, Tchaikovsky or whatever? You ever hear his stuff? He was writing that when the Soviet Union, everybody was starving and dying. That's some of the most beautiful shit you can hear. You know, I very often, when I talk about, when I go on doing interviews about Bizarre Archives, I talk about Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction, which was, you know, considered the golden era of fiction, came about in a time where people were starving. There were bread lines. There were soup kitchens. The overwhelming majority of the working class was out of work. It was bad. It was really bleak for those people. But in this time, they created some of the most imaginative, craziest. And you guys here, you know, folks that are listening are creatives. How many of you that are crazy creative people like me go into these weird, depressive, dark states and end up writing or creating? It's like awesome, right? For example, pretty much everything that I've ever done comes out of a depressed state, or a time where I'm worried about money or something like that. I feel that the pressures of our lives make diamonds, right? Turn coal into diamonds. But that's a whole other point. When it comes to the movement, whatever that is, I think Hireth very correctly pointed out that there is no unified movement. There never was, and there never will be. And that's because that's not how people operate. People don't operate in tribes. They operate in groups. People operate in high trust, localized cells, whether it be, as I was talking about in my Hyper ROM lecture, art gangs, right? People click up. It's just the way that people are. There may be one day a great unified political movement when we are driven to those levels. But even let's be completely honest today. What is going on with the succulent Chinese meal and the lockdowns and all of this kind of stuff? It sucks and it's bad and it's not good, and it's like some of the roughest stuff that we've seen, at least in our lifetimes, right? In the last generation or so. The reality of the situation is it's not that bad yet. We still have electricity. We still have something to eat. Nobody's shooting at us. There's no ice age. It's only bad to us through our perceptions, right? Once people are shooting at us and hauling us away and like doing this stuff in broad daylight, which, you know, you could point out it's starting to happen a little bit here, and there's no doubt that it probably will happen in our lifetime. We will probably see that someday soon. But as of right now, it's the argument that we are living in such terrible conditions that we can't create art. I don't accept this, because we could just look parallel at adjacent scenes that are doing things, that are doing creative things, and they're just like, they're popping off. You know what I mean? It's just, I just don't agree with those things. When it comes to the movement thing, when we look at politics, as Jeff very, very correctly pointed out, people they're politically minded, they have an agenda. Everybody, let's full mask off. Everybody on the planet has an agenda, and most people's narratives that they come up with are effectively fabricated in order to excuse, justify, or promote what they personally believe. They just create a bunch of logic and rationalism around it. So that's, everybody has an agenda, right? Political activists, they are a different archetype. They are a different skill set. They have different brains. They look at things very differently. And I have criticisms of it, but I don't want to get into criticisms of it, because if and I'm not going to get into criticisms of certain groups or movements or whatever, and I have them, right? We all have them. We think this group's better than that group. This group sucks. These groups have gay optics. These guys are cool. These guys are base. We all have these opinions. I'm going to keep those opinions to myself, because just about above, if they win and they're successful, is good for me and it's good for my family. So I try to keep those criticisms in back channels with my friends and in private things, because it's not helpful at all for me to go out and stand on my soapbox and hoot and holler about these guys doing things that I'm not doing. And likewise, they should not be on their soapbox shooting and hollering about things that we're doing, or what I'm doing, or what any of us are doing, right? Because they're not doing it. Because we are a different thing. We are doing something different. We are different people. And the problem that we have here is that we exist as a substrata to a political movement. We play second fiddle. We are under them. We are not autonomous to them. And when we are below somebody, when they look at us as what is useful for their agenda. And I'm not saying this is some nefarious negative thing. It's just how people are. If you are living in my house, I'm going to look at you and be like, yo, I'm going to see what you can do that is good for the house, right? Take out the trash, help me do the dishes. You're here in my house, you got to help out. And that's how they view us. The problem is that's not what we should be doing. An art movement should be completely autonomous from a political movement. As Jeff said, there should be, we're always going to be friendly with each other. There's always going to be times where us succeeding or them succeeding helps each other out, or like, hey, yo, I need this poster drawn. Can you draw this? Or I need this music. Like, I mean, there's always going to be cross-pollination, right? We're on this side of the culture war. It's just the nature of things. And it's the way that it should be, because people should cooperate towards the goal of crushing the vampires and the scumbags and the weirdos. So what I would say is that our problem is that we exist underneath. We are a substrata of a subculture. We are a niche underneath a niche, underneath a niche, underneath a niche. And because of that, we do not benefit from the ecosystems that go along with creating a living tradition or a living community or a living whatever. When you look at an art community, a thriving art community, whether it be a music scene, whether it be, let's use music scene because that's what most people are familiar with. When you look at a really thriving music scene, at the top are the musicians, right? That is the focus. You look at, it's the local bands that everybody likes. It's the bands that they play with. It's the musicians that they're friends with. It's the venues and the studios that they play at. And then underneath that, there's guys that are writing articles, like columns about what band's albums doing this. There's guys that are involved. They have this entire ecosystem of supporting roles and supporting substrata that lift up the art itself. The art is the focus. So what we need, if we want to get serious about art, and I am serious about art. I'm no longer interested in any sort of political activism. Obviously, I have political beliefs, and I hope that the guys that are doing political activism succeed. I give them my support and my blessings. But I want to create art, and I think that art is something, especially we look at entertainment. Entertainment was the number one target of our enemies. It is still to this day their most powerful and cherished weapons. The movies, radio stations, streaming platforms, animated things, all of the arts, period, going all the way up to the gay artsy fartsy, bourgeois douchebags that have their galleries and everything. Top to bottom, they control the whole thing. And as I believe Miss Cat Hugger said, the people do not learn through logic. You cannot convince people of things. People are emotional learners. They learn through metaphor. They learn through storytelling. You could sit and give them this whole big dissertation of abstractions, of theorem, and all this kind of stuff, and it's going to go right over their heads. However, if you show them a movie depicting organically and subliminally the Weltanschauung of the creator through his art, they will inherently understand that. That's how they've always learned. That's why we have fables and myths and folk tales and all of these things. These were moral teachings put through storytelling and metaphor. And that is our enemy's greatest weapon. It was their number one target. They cherish it most of all. And also it is the easiest one to reclaim, in my opinion. I just wrote a short piece on my Telegram about fiction publishing. Fiction publishing is literally crumbling. It is propped up only by the financiers. Indie publishing dwarfs it in sales, and it doesn't even have indie publishing doesn't even have a whole lot of shelf space in box stores, because those are completely going obsolete. Right? Amazon owns something like 80% of the book market. So these vampire controlled, pedophile, freakazoid controlled, feminist controlled publishing companies are literally hemorrhaging money. They can't even give books away. They're crumbling. It is a perfect time to strike and build our own institution. It is very doable. So these types of things, the arts, in my opinion, are a much easier institution to try to march through. We can take them with a blitzkrieg. Whereas in the political sphere, if you want to get control of Congress, you got a ways to go. You want to get into academia, you got a ways to go. Right? They're really, really rooted in that. Us, how often do we look at guys that just come out with goofy songs or whatever, and they go viral and become famous, and the vampires have no control over it. It is imperative that we hold the arts up to the focal point, the center, the top, the apex of the whole operation. Encourage and have a living ecosystem of substrata of different supporting elements, such as like article writing, merch, different business things like distribution and sales. Have like little communities where guys can hang out and discuss and trade and like get involved. Have a community around the art of not just creators, because if you have just creators, it's not going to go anywhere and it is going to stagnate. You must have the audience involved in the community as well. So sorry for my big ramble, but that's what I think.
Yeah, no, I know we've talked about this quite a bit, Dave, but yeah, I'm on board with you, and that's kind of my perspective as well. And what I want to focus on is film and music, but I mean, WHAC is still going to like try to help cultivate the other arts as well. But those are some of the most powerful weapons, and of course, publishing and whatnot. All right, Donald. Let's go for it, man.
All right. So thanks for doing this show. I posted this question: is the movement a movement or is it a social club? And I've been still trying to take in all the information I got, because I got tremendous responses from very many people on Telegram, different groups, different individuals, all part of our family, but definitely different camps as well. You know how there's different camps in the movement. And so I'm still processing all this, and I'm going to put together a show where I read the responses, but not the names. You know, of course, I'll keep the privacy, but get the ideas out there and keep kind of moving this topic forward for everybody. Anyway, so since I don't have a really clear answer quite yet, I'm just going to share some key thoughts that came from the responses of other people. But I quickly do want to say that Dave Martell's response to the question on Telegram privately was probably one of the most based responses and brutally honest. And so I think we should really pay attention to what Dave's saying. He's just a really honest guy, really straight guy. So one of the topics is the idea of art being differentiated from the movement. And that echoes back to what Jeff started saying about these are two different kinds of animals, if you will. They're two different natures. And so then Cat Hugger had a topic that was something on the top. She had a point about the topic of sort of personal versus propaganda. And this is a really complex topic. So I think that some people in various camps within the white identitarian movement are going to gravitate to the propaganda. They like the kind of fast wave approach. They like that, and whereas others really are going to resonate more with the personal messages that the messages may be more hidden or implicit. And then, of course, there's the question about us, what should we be making as artists? And so that brings up the subject of having more dialogue with more of these different camps. All of our camps within the movement, I think of the entire white identitarian dissident right as like a city with a bunch of different apartment buildings, and I've had apartments in a lot of these buildings. The Apollonians and the pagans and the Christians and this, that, and the other thing, and they don't all get along with each other, but we're all kind of living in the same city. And I feel like if there were more dialogue about our similarities and less infighting, blah, 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 you can fill in the blanks, it'd be better for everybody. But I feel like artists should actually kind of lead that, and not like it's a mission or that we have an agenda per se, but rather on a fact-finding mission, that we would say, what is it about your position that means so much to you? I'm interested in it, convince me or talk to me more, or maybe I can represent your camp with my music or my art, what have you. So I just feel like we on our side of the fence should kind of jump over and try to dialogue more. And of course they should accept us more. So I want to get on TRS, for example, or, maybe different people in our group could get on different types of shows and dialogue with them from an arts perspective. I think this would stimulate a tremendous amount of growth, both artistically and politically. So that's a thought. The movement lacks a singular leader. We don't have that one apex alpha male or, what have you, who really brings it all together. And we're splintered in a sense. We're sort of stuck in a holding pattern, that we're surrounded, but we have a lot of paralysis by analysis. We're discussing things so much that I feel like we're not going anywhere. And that was sort of the basis of the question: is this a movement or a social club? Which is, I didn't mean to be rude when I phrased it that way, but I think you know what I mean. It's a social culture. So these are topics that I feel like if we're, there's people that just sort of shitlord and they just do that for fun and they're not really serious. And then there's the rest of us who are serious. And so these are things that I believe should take on. And these are points that people brought up a lot in the Telegram posts. So getting back to Jeff's topics, logistics of infrastructure, needing more business and marketing consultation. funding. These things are the groundwork, that we have to build. We've talked about it. I just sort of feel as if we need to bring people from the outside in to say, okay, you're an expert at X, and we need these things. We have to connect the dots, fill in the blanks, what have you. But to bring in more people with business acumen, business knowledge, and there's got to be people in the movement already like that. So I think this is a shout out to them, and maybe we within the movement, within the arts rather, should be more aggressive in trying to find those people and kind of recruit them, if you will, or whatever, bring them into, say, WAC or depending on who wants to do what. This is a fundamental problem we have to solve. Another topic, we need deeper relationships with these camps. I mentioned that before. I'm just kind of reading my little list here. I feel like it's a two-way dialogue. What I've discovered, I've been leaning a lot deeper into the NJP camp a lot, and I'm finding that they're not interested in the arts. They're hardcore, in terms of what they do and what they are, and I feel as if it's imbalanced. That if they had more culture per se, that they could perhaps reach their agenda, as Dave would put it. That if there was a bridge through the arts, through culture, that they could kind of, I don't know, somehow expand it. So that this is a topic for discussion. And then one of our members in our community, who's into Asatru and Germanic religions, she mentioned to me that we really have to concentrate on the spiritual aspect of the movement to find something authentic. Now, granted, yes, everybody immediately is thinking, well, that's, we all have our differences, and that's probably one of the most intimate topics. But at the same time, it seems like it's upon us to somehow find what are kind of spiritual roots that will not only bring us together, but actually withstand the battles to come, and that we would kind of leave a bit of a legacy or a guidebook, if you will, to the next generation and the next generation. So again, I know that's a hot topic or a touchy topic for a lot of people, but it would be interesting if people from different religious or spiritual perspectives could all say, hey, what about this theme? What about this topic? What about this scripture? What about XYZ, whatever, and kind of pool together the thoughts into a root, a spiritual root. Now, clearly the arts and spirituality, religion have a very long and deep relationship. It's in many ways, the arts are the technology of religion, if you think it through. And so there's really something untapped there that we haven't gotten into. And I know that it's a touchy topic. So, we'd maybe have to have some kind of a gentle protocol in which we could go about that. But again, I'm overwhelmed with the responses to this question I put on Twitter. Sorry, not Twitter, Telegram, and I'm still working through reading all of them. So I'm going to do a show where I'll do that, and I'm happy to have anybody on a panel if they'd like to come on and contribute to that discussion as well.
Well, thank you for that input, Donald. I just wanted to make one note, or just something about what you're saying there about like the different camps and whatnot. That's kind of getting right back at what I was saying earlier, and I feel like that is a well-traveled road as far as what WAC has done. Like I know these, I've talked to Stryker. We used to go on. We've been on Red Ice. We've been on, No White Guilt show many times. We've been on PWR many times, and et cetera, et cetera. I just, there was a period of time a couple years ago where WAC was making a concerted effort to try to reach out to all these different factions. And I think it was good. It was effective in like kind of building a network and, getting to know more people. And we got on different shows to spread what we're doing. And, we appreciate what a lot of these different groups are doing as well. But like, I feel like we've already been down that road, and I'm not discouraging anybody else from taking individually as an artist or their entity, whatever it might be, going and building those networks with people. But I feel like WHAC has already done that. Like we've talked to all these groups, we've gained whatever we can from that, and like that's what I'm saying. Like you just kind of said it there towards the end, or when you were talking about, I think, the NJP, it's like a lot of the people who are really deeply involved in that they're not interested in the arts, and that is a really huge part of what I want to try to convey, is that I feel like we keep coming back to this same idea that we need to try harder to appeal to this overwhelmingly politically oriented movement. As Dave said, we're like a substrata, which is true. That's kind of how things developed. But what I'm saying is, like, we've already done that. We've already been around that. They're aware of us. They're aware of what we do. Some of them like it and support it. Some of them hate it. Some of them think we're cringe. I'll be honest. This is not disrespect towards any of them. I don't care what they think, because they don't understand what we're doing. They understand that it's important. Art is important, culture is important, from kind of a theoretical perspective. Like, yeah, you need an art movement, and you need an art movement to have a political movement, all that kind of stuff. But they don't actually understand the mechanics of the arts, and their followers overwhelmingly don't either. They don't go. They're the kind of people that would rather listen to like an esoteric political stream on a Saturday night rather than go see a band somewhere. Like, that doesn't compute with me personally. I've always been someone who goes out. That's what I seek out. I seek out music. I seek out films. I will go to gallery stuff, even though I'm not that type of an artist, but I'm just drawn to the creative. And there's a lot of people who aren't necessarily artists who are drawn to the arts and whatnot, who want to take those things in and want to support it. And I feel like we just keep circling back around and keep going, well, how do we appeal harder to these people who already know what we do, who've supported us as much as they're ever going to? They get, what I mean? Like, I just want to make that point. That's nothing against you, Donald. I know we're always trying to figure these things out, but as far as WHAC goes, like, I feel like we've gone round and round that. There's nothing they can really do for us. Like, that's what I'm saying, is like, we need to stand on our own. Like, we can't continue to exist as a substrata of this other thing that doesn't even understand the mechanics of what we do. We have to figure out on our own, as a group, as a collective, and I'm not just talking about WHAC, obviously, but all the other, like, if we want there to be a real significant art movement, we have to figure that out for ourselves. We have to find the support. We have to form the organizations. We have to make the better quality stuff. We have to figure out to get it to the right people who are actually going to give a shit. That's on us. And that's just what I'm trying to say. I get really frustrated that we keep coming back around to, like, how do we appeal to them harder? Like, we can't. That's a dead end road as far as I'm concerned. And again, I'm not saying if anybody else wants to go and try to do that, go right ahead. But I that's my view on that.
I agree, Jeff. I just wanted to comment that what I should have clarified is that we can be inspired by their ideas to make art that represents the spectrum of ideas within the movement. But I'm essentially right next to you on all your points.
Cool. And just something to that too, is that, and I think, I guess, sorry, Jack, just 1 second, man. I'll get, we kind of touched on this. Maybe we'll talk about it later. I don't know. But, it's like, I do really want to encourage more people to not feel obligated, because that's kind of another element of it, is like, almost us feeling obligated, like we need to try to be the messenger of these ideas through our art. But I think in some senses, like, we just have to internalize what we believe and just stop, don't not feel obligated to create propaganda, basically. Just create organic. It's gonna be better if it's organic and it's not tainted with feeling. And I've been through this myself. It's like kind of a process of when you first get red pilled or whatever. It's like, okay, I don't want to make overt stuff anymore. I want to write a love song. I want to write or make a film that has nothing to do. It's not a nod. It's not a wink to this meme. It's not a wink to this past regime. It's like, I just want to make stuff that's good, So I just want to say that too. Like, nobody should be feeling obligated to carry the message in their art. Just make good art. It should just be organic and feel it out. Trust your artistic instincts. Don't be overly influenced by that whole world either, in the ideology. Don't feel like you have to cram it in there. Okay, Jack, I think it's your turn.
What was the question again?
Seriously?
I'm joking. No, like I think it's a really interesting conversation. Yeah, you guys know I'm pretty frustrated with the whole thing as well. The way I look at art is like it's kind of like for like the long term. It's like we're sowing like little seeds here, and I haven't watched political streams for, I can't tell you, like maybe over a year, because it's just like art is like an investment of something sort of like timeless that will last. And I think like politics is like it's like a newspaper, you read it and then the next day it's like wrapped up with like the chips. I don't have the answer of like how we move this forward. And to speak to what you were saying there, like I wouldn't give up on like making contacts with bigger people in the scene and everything, because like you said, that's in some ways like how we built our audience, back in the day, like so I think there is still some room for that, and I wouldn't like quit it like just because you're like totally like frustrated with everything. Like I think that's I think there's room to continue to build on that. And but yeah, I totally understand the frustration. Like people don't Iris like what coined this like term like in that chat, like art tards, like they don't understand what art is. And the thing is with art, a lot of it's like not understood until afterwards. If you think about like like someone like Van Gogh, like a lot of people will say in our scene, oh, Van Gogh's a degenerate, but he was like totally visionary. He died like penniless. Like this is the case with so many artists, and yeah, it sucks, and like we don't want that. We want to be recognized in the scene and respected and everything like that. But art is like, it's so important because it changes like it can change the frame of everything, like how people sort of think about things and everything like that. And that, I think that's why it's so important, even though like we're like kind of like down in the dirt and nobody pays any attention to us and everything like that. And yeah, it sucks balls. It sucks, but I don't know. Like my opinion is basically we just like keep scrapping this out and like endure it. And like I was totally black pilled like last year. I totally agree with Dave Martell about like how I don't understand, like how can you not find this like like a creative experience? I've written some of the best songs in the last year that I don't know how it was done. It was just done like because it was so dark. But I also agree with Lord Wolfshield. Like I'm not depressed. I'm pretty optimistic, like especially lately, because and like Donald was saying, like how do we move forward? Like how do we create a movement? Well, my opinion has always been that like nothing is going to happen until things get really bad, and like that's why I embrace kind of like all these symptoms of like collapse. And there's been so many like in the last, like even the last few months. And I'm optimistic about, even Twitter, like Elon buying Twitter. I think that's, if that actually happens, that's going to be like huge for us, because the black pill for me has always been censorship. Like if we can't get our message out, we don't have any real hope. And So for me, I hope that autistic fuck buys the thing. Like, I don't care how much he has to pay for it. I just hope that deal goes through and we can like actually talk again. Like the internet used to be fucking good. Like you could actually be yourself on it. You could say whatever you want.
Hey Jack,
like,
can I add something quick to what you were saying about like the censorship?
yeah,
Because like you know, the reality is that we have been like censored like so, you know, incredibly bad off of like everywhere. Yet
I know.
we continue to grow. We continue like, you know, we're not shrinking. Like our, you know, our numbers continue to grow despite all the censorship, and that's like another thing to be optimistic about. Just adding that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like, I'm actually optimistic. Like, I was completely blackpilled last year. From like, I was blackpilled before anyone else. Like, I was blackpilled like, you know, well, maybe not before anyone else, but like you're all talking about you like you're blackpilled like right now. Like, I was blackpilled like, you know, as soon as that censorship came in, like back in January, what was it, 2021? Like, I lost a quarter of my followers on Twitter. I'm optimistic because like in the last like month, I've like actually got more followers than I ever have. Like, so I'm optimistic that, you know, if this fucking thing goes through, that like, you know, we might actually be able to speak again. And I think the worst is over. And like, I'm optimistic because I don't, and it's not about, oh, can I speak on Twitter? I'm optimistic because when things get bad, you know, like for the US, I'm sorry, like I know a lot of people are going to suffer and everything, but I welcome these things because that's what's going to wake people up. You know, that's what's going to do it, you know. And how do we move art? How do I get into this? How do we move art forward? I don't know. We just keep fighting. We just keep scrapping it out. And I think this is more or less over. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I think we just keep doing what we've been doing, and keep scrapping it out. That's basically what I'm gonna say. I don't know. What does anyone want to comment on that? I don't know.
Well, I want to say something real quick. So, like, I'm personally not black pilled. Like, I have been frustrated, but I'm not black pilled. Like, I haven't fully made this like public, but we've actually gotten an opportunity to make a film, like nothing like gigantic, like Hollywood level, but it's a bigger opportunity than anything we've ever had before, and I'm going to do everything I can to leverage all of the talent within our community to be part of that, and hopefully it develops into something bigger
Awesome.
than that.
Oh, it's gonna be huge. I can feel
It's
it.
gonna be huge.
So like, but it's by far like, and it's a direct result of just like all of the stuff that we've been working on. Like Wax existed for 4 years, you know, over 4 years, and like this opportunity wouldn't have happened if we hadn't been doing all this stuff, slogging it out, you know, etc. Now, on the flip side of that is just like I've been, you know, like things just change, the landscape changes as far as, you know, how things are working, like the kind of the model that we were working under up until like the end of last year. We just kind of like, you know, SNL stream, for example, like I did that for almost every Saturday for over 3 years.
I know.
And I got burned out, and also we just like the viewership started dropping off, and you know, people weren't giving donations. Again, it's not all about money, but like, you know, when you're spending a lot of time on this stuff, and if you're trying to professionalize something, like we got to make money. We just do. And we can't do these things. We can't have events. We can't have contests with real, you know, prize money and stuff. So anyway, you know, like on the one hand, there's some of the best opportunities we've had ever, you know, are happening, and things are going up in that respect. But on the other hand, it's like, you know, we're just having to change. So I just want to make sure you know, like you understand, like we're not like
I totally understand. Like, I know it's hard work.
When it comes to any company, like any company, you know, sorry, it doesn't matter what company it is. You have to grow. Like you have to like grow what your company is doing, or you know, if you stay stagnant, then it's just going to die. So that's why every company is constantly trying to, you know, add new things, improve whatever they're doing. And I think WAC has kind of, been stagnant for a while, and so it's gonna start dipping. But I think we do have a big opportunity for creating something really cool and new.
Yeah, and something else. Yeah, I agree with you. And it did get stagnant, and that's another reason for pulling back a little bit on some of those things is because like I don't really want to just like if when you do a weekly show where you're trying to keep things interesting, like play new artists, etc. You can't really keep to a super high standard. There's not tons of artists kind of in our sphere who are willing to be affiliated, blah blah blah. It's like there are quite a few, but there comes a point too where I feel like we kind of hit that wall a little bit where it's like there's still
I know. I remember back in 2000, it was like magical, like that early, summer 2019, where like half the people that are in this chat like basically just rocked up and
like right around that same time exactly. And so like it was very exciting and like we were all new to it and like it was also novel still but like,
I get it. Like
no, I know. I'm not just saying this directly. I just also kind of want people generally to understand like why, because I haven't really done a lot of public discussion about like we've tried to change different things. We stopped doing this stream as much and blah blah blah. So I'm just not just saying that to you, Jack, but just to people in general that like this is why we've been kind of trying to change things around. I've had other people reaching out to me wondering what's going on. Is everything okay? It's just like we do have to go to at some point, and I've always said this about WAC, like I've always intended to professionalize. Like I've always taken art seriously. Like I'm not fucking around here. I'm not some weekend warrior. I mean it, and I very much mean it. I've been developing my musical and filmmaking skills and storytelling skills and writing for years, decades and decade and a half. I got a lot of gray in my beard. I'm not messing around with this. So like that's just the same way as like, yeah, the organization has to grow. We have to get more serious. We have to we also have to go where the support is. So, I think like the support for just gathering a bunch of like people's music and sometime lowering the standard for this or that, or playing too much of one thing, or, you know what I mean? Like I would much rather focus more on developing and helping a smaller group of people like really develop what they're doing. Let's really dig into this. Let's really make a badass film. Let's really like help somebody record an incredible album and make a music video for them, like whatever it is. Like I think that's what I want to do. I want to dig deeper into it. Like let's get serious about making the best possible stuff we can make.
Right, and I think that WAC has kind of been coasting off of what people see as the potential of it for a while, and I think there's a lot of potential here, but we're not necessarily like tapping into it as much as
I don't know if I call it coasting. It didn't feel like coasting. It's like a lot of work. But
I'm just saying, like over the past couple of like months or whatever. I'm not saying like that's just that it's been kind of dipping because of.
I kind of think we've just been in like a bit of a slog for a while, and I don't know when it's going to get better, but I honestly believe it will get better. I do believe that. I can't justify that, but yeah, go ahead.
So Dave wanted to say something because he has to leave soon. So yeah. Let's let Dave say something.
No, if he's still here. Dave, you with us still?
Yeah, I'm about to pull up this place. You guys keep talking. I'll hop in. Give me like 5 minutes.
Right.
I have something to add, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for
it. So I feel like, challenges of WAC as an organization are a little bit different than challenges for us as individual artists. So for WAC as an organization, there's so many different, there's so much potential for having different factions of like an educational wing, a potential like record label type of thing, a film industry. Like, I mean, these are all like, grand ideas, but it's not like unreachable. It's just that WAC as an organization needs funding to do these things, because like Jeff said, you can't expect people to volunteer all of their time when time is so valuable right now. I mean, time is totally precious. And I know that Jeff's been wearing a lot of hats. I've worn a lot of hats. And and you end up not having time to do the things that you're actually like the best at doing. So like for me personally as an artist, I feel like I have the most to contribute when it comes to writing and creating music. And when I'm trying to do other things, it takes time away from doing that, you know. But another challenge as an individual artist is that we have to also try to figure out how to promote our work and how to reach people, and that is marketing, you know. And a lot of people, when you're the creative type of person, you are more introverted, and just creating in general takes a lot of your energy. And so you don't really have the energy always to like try to like communicate with people or reach out to people or promote your work. And ideally you would have someone market your stuff for you. Like if you were in a record label, that's something that they would do. They would have like a team of marketing people to do this. But like all of that requires resources. So I think like a big challenge for us as creators is like trying to spread, trying to be heard, you know, or seen if you're a visual artist. And doing that, and it's like it takes a lot of time to put the energy into even just promotion, you know, and then that takes time away from creation. So it's kind of like this dilemma, I guess, that I find myself in, or I have found myself in the past. So, but I mean, speaking to that, even I would like to engage more with my audience and with fans or supporters. That's something I would like to do for sure. But these are just challenges that I think of. And then the question continuously pops in my head, like, as a creator, what is your ultimate goal when you're creating? I mean, what is your goal with this? You know, are you trying to make propaganda? Are you trying to just freely express yourself in the most genuine way you can? Do you, like for me personally, I do agree with Jack. I want my music I'd like for someone to hear it and it really like strike home or just resonate with at least one person, you know. And I want it to have that timelessness to where if somebody were to discover my music or something like years from now, and they hear it, maybe one person again in the future could still resonate with it, because it's not really about something in current events that, you know, a week later it'll be like kind of irrelevant and people are like, oh, that's so last year's news, you know, or whatever, or last week's news. I think that art and music should have that timelessness to it for sure. Those are just some thoughts that I had.
May I jump in?
Sorry.
Oh, okay. Let me just pop in real quick. Actually, Iris took a lot of the points that I was going to say, but I think I can cap that off. In my life right now, what I'm doing is looking into grant writing for visual art, specifically painting. And I've already known this for a while, but I'm still kind of trying to Trojan horse my way into that world. And that is that the funding for the arts you know, we're the enemy. You know, there are no systems set up out there already that would be like, hey, WhiteArtCollective, yeah, let's write grants for you. You know, but the fact that we persist in a world that wants to kind of replace us, if you will, is extraordinary. And on top of that, I don't know of any art movement in history that's ever been formulated under the pressures that we're in, you know, to stop white replacement, that have had these kinds of themes, etc. And we're kind of building the road as we drive on it, you know, so that we have to kind of step back a little bit and say, that is incredible. You know, and it is extraordinary amount of pressure, frankly, to be, especially on Jeff, frankly, but for all of us to be a part of something that is swimming upstream, you know, against all these extraordinary forces and all the finances that go into the next Netflix series or this and that, and all this degenerate anti-white propaganda out there. So I think that's white. I'm essentially trying to white pill everybody with that a bit. But simultaneously, it's still, you know, there's always that funding issue. So like, I feel as if like, you know, and then again, there's the problem is that I feel we need to bring people in to do that, that we as artists can only wear so many hats. And that in a sense, to some extent, that's not our expertise and maybe even not even our job. Now, most of us want to make money at what we do, and we should, and et cetera, et cetera. But it just sucks you dry. It kind of pulls all your time and energy out. And it can even kill your inspiration, and it makes you feel, well, what am I doing this for? You know, do I have to pander to this grant writer or to this gallery or to this record label or this audience? It in a sense, the art institution, the art world as it is right now, murders art. You know, it's the death of art, because if you want money and you want to make a living even from it, you know, you've got to make what people want to buy, and now you're just making a widget. You know, so it's like, so all the forces that are against us are actually extraordinary. So for us to be doing what we're doing is quite powerful. Cat Hugger, you can take the mic.
Thank you. Was also great points. I want to agree that we can't wait for money, and especially now in this economy where people can't buy gas, there is no money incoming for art, so we have to do it out of passion. And I have heard many people already addressing the question of what do we do art for? Do we do art to recruit? Do we do art to remoralize, or do we create art to build a legacy? And the situation we are in with the censorship is we cannot use our art to recruit. But this is actually good, because that means we can do less propaganda and more things out of passion, to remoralize and to build a legacy. But each of this is achieved through different means. What Jeff said, building together and the movie, and I wonder if it's the Day of the Rope movie. I don't know, but I know, for example, that Black Pilled is since ages looking for artists to create this movie. So yeah, I think we cannot go separate from the big names, because this is where the main interest lies. So when we focus on remoralization, there is symbiosis to be had. My ideas were, for example, that in streams like Blackpill stream or the Tea Time with Summer Laura, they always play a song at the start. Why don't they play our songs? So that's on them. That's not on us. They know that we exist. That's their mistake. I hold it against them. Then one person mentioned the NGP and how they are not interested in art, and I have to agree. They have posted a flyer a week back that should inform people about an anti-white attack, and it was so badly done. It was like the image was pulled sideways, and the text was not fitting, and the text didn't make any sense. And I think, why didn't they ask an artist? But on the other hand, there's this other group, Patriot Front, I think, and they put their thoughts into optics, like with the matching uniforms. So this is something that's going up, and I think if we stay in contact and we just offer to remoralize, and like there is an NGP event and they come there to listen to speeches, but then afterwards people like Mamas and the Pepes would go on stage and play while the people hang out and have fun. I think this is the way forward, and it would add value to the event. And yeah, I think we have to be useful, and our usefulness lies not in propaganda because of our reach, but in remoralization. Yeah, that was the point I wanted to make.
Nice. Anybody want to respond to that, or have something to say? Dave, I know you got to go soon.
Yeah. So, Miss Cat Hugger, I disagree again. I'm sorry, but Right now, book sales are the highest they've ever been. They've been in like years and years. People are buying more books now than they have in the last like 15 years. Record sales right now are like the highest they've been in a decade. Like we're looking at art going through the roof. People are spending money on art. And there's a few, different. If you look at the data, there's a few different contributing factors to this, but that's not the point here. What I'm saying is we have far more potential to achieve. Okay, so there is one formula to victory. There's only one. And Jack mentioned about Twitter. You know why people have white pills about Twitter? It's because Elon Musk has a big fucking pile of money and he's dropping stacks on it. That's why there's a white pill. You know how political victories happen? You get guys with big stacks of money to fund things. The only way to victory at all with anything is with big stacks of money. It's time for us as artists to go after big stacks of money. That's the only way we're going to succeed. That's the only way we can keep this going. And that's the only way we can professionalize. I agree with Jeff completely. More high quality stuff, polished stuff. Now, I think that there needs to be a balance of guys that do like frequent stuff, like spam it out and have lots of frequent content, and then some big bangers to go along with it. Hit songs with great videos. We're talking, really dank comic books, short films, all that stuff, polished, badass stuff to balance with like the podcasts, the radio stuff, others, you know what I mean? Like have a balance of that. But, if we continue as a substrata of a fringe of a fringe of a fringe political movement, we will all starve. And I'm telling you guys, there's money in this. There is success in this if the right path is taken. So it's time for us to get out from under the belly of people that don't even like care about what we're doing. And when they do take interest in what we're doing, it's to serve their agenda. And we go out and get money ourselves. You know what I mean? What'd Scarface say? First you get the money, then you get the power, and then you get the women. You know what I mean? Obviously, I'm married. I'm not trying to go out and get with, but that's what that's what I'm talking about. It's time that we flex and we have our own power and we make our own moves and we get hungry for not like idealism. We can't feed our kids with idealism. It's time to get money. I'm telling you, I started Bizarre Archives with an idealist thing. And now I'm starting to see that some success is happening. I can see the light at the tunnel. I want in 5 years to be driving a fucking Escalade. I want an Escalade in 5 years. I don't care. So I say, let these people that say, oh, well, you should do it for the love of it. Yeah, you should love it. And there should be good stuff in there too. You know what I mean? It should be about the art. The art should be number one, but the art needs to make money. And we have a potential to make a lot of money with it. You know what I mean? There's guys out there that are correctly marketing their music. They have it on all the different streaming services. They sell their stuff. They get it in commercials. Self-made guys that are like millionaires. I know self-published authors that are millionaires off of just like selling books on Amazon. You know what I mean? There's money in it and there's success in it, but there's no success for us. There's no light at the end of the tunnel for us if we exist as a semi-useful substrata, effectively a lamprey under the belly of a much larger whale. That's just not the way to victory.
All right, very impassioned from Dave there. Nice. Anybody?
Dave wants to get paid.
It's time for us to, how many of you guys here are tired? How many of you guys here are ready to get fucking paid? We see all these guys around them in the movement or whatever, doing their thing, whatever, getting paid. When do we get paid? It's our turn. Let's get fucking paid.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
100%, my man.
I do think that there is a massive opportunity. Like people hate a lot. I mean, there's a huge amount of people who hate Hollywood. There's a huge amount of people who hate the mainstream music industry, and the publishing and on and on and on. It is there to be had. I think there's a massive market, and yeah, like the art and the quality of it has to come first. But I think there's a massive market there. If you do it right, you absolutely at the very, very least could make it sustainable to where you could do bigger and bigger projects. And like, yeah, we actually can do a feature length film. That is absolutely there to be had. I believe it.
I'm saying, dude, all you have to do right now, people hate this woke shit. They hate it. Your average Joe Schmo wants to go back to like watching TV or hearing music that just isn't gay. You just have to like have some good stuff that's not gay. The moment you don't even gotta like say any sort. Here's the problem, and me and Jeff and a lot of us have talked about this. A lot of this like dissident right stuff is very. I mean, I'm in it too. I listen to it. We're all in it. But we go outside of that. Nobody knows what the fuck we're talking about. It's not even that we're offensive or we're the bad guys or anything like that. You go to Joe Schmo, who would happily pay you for a book or pay you for a song or whatever. You start telling them about this like this inside language that we use. You start telling them about the theories that we talk about, like all this stuff that we like to talk about. His eyes glaze over. He doesn't even understand what the fuck we're talking about. You know what I mean? But what he does understand is a dope song. What he does understand is a cool book with cool stories in it. What he does understand is a dank comic book. That's what he does understand. So, and there's millions of these people just waving their money, throwing their money at people that are making stuff that just isn't gay. It's time to strike. It's time to get paid.
Yeah, as long as you're making art or your stories or whatever that like are within the natural order of life, people will respond to that, because all art is like extremely, like all the mainstream movies and art are extremely unnatural in every way, and people just want that like natural order of reality and life again.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's also, that's Dave, exactly. And I know that you and I are on the same page with this, is like, that's why that's what it's like. I feel like people end up trying to make art and throw to appeal to like the movement, quote unquote, you know what I mean? The people who already think this way in this political milieu and et cetera, that know these memes and that. And I think it's better to just make good stuff. Just make really good, inspired art that doesn't have to have any of that in it at all. And I think it has the potential to appeal to a much broader audience just that way. Like, you're not obligated to put that stuff in there. Just make what feels right. Trust your artistic instinct and your intuition. So we have a question over here on Entropy. Thank you, Clean Cream Clam. Thank you for the £3. And he's asking, are there animators in the movement I can hire for stuff? Yeah, I think there's Dino Storm. I think he does like commission animation work. There's also Zorchwave. There's anybody else? Can you guys remember?
I think Sonia Marlene does some animation stuff.
Yeah, Sonia Marlene. And if you need any of those people specific like contact and whatnot, you can feel free to email me, WhiteArtCollective@protonmail.com, and I will try to get you their direct contact info. Those are the ones off the top of my head. But yeah, there are some. He was also asking, what is Cat Hugger's accent? Cat Hugger, can you speak to that?
It's German.
There you go.
The most based accent of all.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, feel free to reach out to me, Clean Cream Clam. That's really kind of hard to say. But yeah, anyway, let's see.
I do have a bit of a question for you, Jeff, and the panel.
Sure.
So the topic you just mentioned earlier about just make art, and that it does not have to have a white message explicitly or implicitly. And then, so that's where I get kind of like, I lose my tether with what we're doing here. I kind of feel like, well, just being in the White Art Collective, you're associated with the movement. So that alone kind of ties it together. But as an artist, this is something I've always kind of gone, back and forth on the scale with. It's like how I seem to lean into the propaganda stuff. I lean into like anthems and, talking about these kinds of white specific issues. And I'll reference our language and our memes and things. And it's fun to speak to our audience directly in our language. It just feels great, that moralization, etc. But I've also, of course, been thinking, I just make art about other stuff. I like to write love songs, or maybe like some comic book stuff that I do, or this or that. The Bizarchives, for example, is not specifically about white replacement or any of that kind of thing, and we all have this range of skill and ability. So I do, but as a kind of art teacher and art historian, if you will, I would look at that as problematic. Like, okay, when you're off script or off message, is it still kind of WhiteArtCollective art? Is it still part of what it is that we do? Or is it simply, say, Jeff Winston writing a song about, I don't know, something that he cares about other than this thing, So that's really a question for everybody there. Where do we draw the line on these things? Is this a non-issue, or is this a serious issue? Anybody want to jump on that?
Well, let me go ahead, since you're talking about whack specifically and the propaganda stuff. So it's like, as far as, okay, so the main idea of whack is just like this is just a community of artists who are basically like racially aware,
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean that people need to make art that communicates the ideas from within the spheres that we all are all familiar with. That said, okay, propaganda, you have to have propaganda. Somebody has to create propaganda. If that's really what you want to do and are inspired to do, and that's where you think you're best suited, and that's you following your muse, then I think that's perfectly fine, because we do need propaganda. Somebody has to create the propaganda, the beautifully made. And I know you've done a lot of the covers for a lot of the books and things, it's like that's kind of propaganda in a way, right? You're putting the artistic face onto those ideas and helping it, and you've done a great job with that, right? So I think that the propaganda, it has its place, but I think that there has to be a balance to where the overwhelming thrust of the art movement, I think that we need, should not be propaganda. There will be people making propaganda. They will be working with the various different groups who have their message they're trying to get out, so that they can make that as aesthetic as possible. But the thrust, I think, of a real organic movement would not be, it wouldn't be beholden to that. It would just be about people who think the way that we think. Or like, it's the ideas that you've internalized from all of this, becoming racially aware and becoming aware of who's pulling the strings behind the scenes, and having to go back and readjust your entire worldview based on that information, right? Like, you've been in this for long enough to where you've really internalized those ideas, and like pretty much anything you create, if you weren't even trying, right? If you're not even trying to like do something, you're going to end up just creating something from that perspective. You know what I mean?
Because that's who I am now. Exactly.
So like, but I mean, that said, but if that's, like, if you are most comfortable in creating what you call propaganda, or what might be classified as propaganda, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I don't want to discourage people from creating it. I've always been fascinated by propaganda, and I know that it's necessary. Somebody has to be a propagandist. We have to think something. We have to get those ideas out there in the best possible way. But I think the overall thrust of the art movement that we need, it needs to be organic and not beholden to the propaganda. And up to this point, I think a lot of people, it's just been, the balance has been more towards propaganda than just towards organic art. And I think what we're trying to encourage to happen here is to shift away from that. There's still going to be the people creating propaganda. They're totally relevant, legit, but we need to get more aimed at just creating really great art from the perspective of people who think the way we do. Does that make sense?
And I think that people get very annoyed when somebody becomes so myopic about like one singular subject or whatever. People get annoyed with that. You need to have like a healthy balance of different things. You don't want to just be like a one trick pony that only talks about one thing.
If I may add, sorry. If I may add, what Dave said, that there's money for art, and that we don't have to create propaganda to be successful. I agree completely, because I'm a bit active in the parallel economy on Gap, and I see there are people that are willing to pay more just so the money goes to people that do not hate them. And like, you remember the Black Rifle coffee grift? There are now really coffee companies that advertise exclusively with "We do not hate you." So when we create songs and comic books, and we say, well, I'm a country musician and I do not hate white people, that's a huge selling point.
It's an
Hell yeah.
amazing pitch right there, actually, you know, whatever it is, because we don't ever see "I don't hate white people" on anything anywhere.
And also, when it comes to, you don't have to be explicit. Like, you don't have to explicitly put this stuff. If you have a song, and then like your music video just has like some good looking white people, a nice looking white lady in it, or if you write a story and there's no like schwugs or homos in it, you know, just like excluding and not having this stuff, and just having it like healthy, happy, normal white people in the story or in the video or in the movie or whatever, that's pro-white. You know what I mean? That's completely against everything that they're trying to do. And in fact, if you do that, we saw this with the Northman movie, right? They're like, that guy, Robert Eggers, he probably has no idea who we are. And he knows nothing about what we say or what we do. He was just making a movie trying to be historically accurate and stuff like that. And they called him a white, like, he's a Nazi white supremacist, blah, 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 you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and they're like, this is problematic, you know, it's like, and then automatically they're like, this is dog whistling to white supremacy. Like, you guys heard the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Just because he didn't have any schwugs in it. There were no schwugs in the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all you need to do, is just not have any schwugs. Don't have any queers or homos, and then that's all there is to it.
And
just kick those
support
people
Terry
out.
Austin
And now
positive.
we're kicked off of YouTube again because
Oh,
David said the Q
no.
word. No.
I didn't
Well,
say
you
that.
know,
I didn't say the F word.
I think that like our culture is kind of like culture in general. It's kind of it's somewhat delicate, and I think if you like grab onto it too tightly, you're gonna like kind of suffocate it and kill it. I think like the sort of like natural expressions of your culture is gonna be like better than just like being so laser focused on saying like, I'm gonna make white culture, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, what you said there, that's exactly what, when I say what I was just saying about like just making something from the perspective, I often think in terms of film because I'm a filmmaker. And the thing is, just like what Dave said, it's like just the decision of having an all-white cast, and just at that, and yes, no homo stuff and all that, but like that in and of itself is a statement that it's just implicitly understood when people see it, you know, because we all know what it means when all of a sudden there's a black character comes in out of nowhere and you're like, oh, that's the diversity quota casting, you know, it takes you out of the movie, it's lame, and everybody kind of knows that, but you know, a lot of people just accept that that's just how it is. Here comes the black guy to be loud and whatever, you know what I mean? Like that's like, you know, do the slang thing, but it's like just having the cast, those kind of decisions, or in the case of maybe like the visual arts or something, you know, just like reviving old styles of painting or the subject that you pick itself, you know, because almost everything is woke, right? So almost everything they do shoehorns that crap into it. So if like just not doing that and doing it from our own perspective in and of itself, you're already there, you know, so you don't have to add stuff on top of that. You don't have to try to shoehorn the meme or whatever, you know what I mean? But again, you can do propaganda if you want to, there's nothing wrong with it, but we need more organic art just from the people who want that, who feel compelled to follow that muse, you know, like I do. I've created some propaganda type stuff. I just want to make really great movies, like this one we're working on, you know. I just want to make a really great movie, and like it's going to have an all-white cast, you know. That in and of itself it says something, it means something, especially in the current year. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Anybody else?
Real quick, we have another donation on Entropy. Thank you so much, Hatchet JYT. And I'll just read this out loud. It says, "Hail Whack, enjoy the struggle and carry on. Your work breathes life into our folk, even if it doesn't seem so. Pro-whites can march separately, but still strike together." So thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah, and Hatchet, thank you, man. You've always been really solid, dude. He's always been super supportive of the White Art Collective, and it's people like you and stuff like that that really, it means a lot, man. Thank you.
There's a
And-
song concept right there. You know, march separately but strike together. I think.
Yeah.
Gotta grab
Oh,
that.
yeah.
That's cool.
I like that.
Oh,
Can I say one more thing? I got to bounce out of here.
yeah, go ahead.
So, this is, we could debate this, right? About what is art and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, all art is fantasy, right? All art is fantasy. And what makes fantasy is immersion, right? You want to inhabit this world that happens when you create art. It doesn't matter what it is. You want to get lost in that. And when your art is, I like some propaganda too, but there needs to be a separation between what is art and what is propaganda. When you make something that is pure art, it is a world that you get transported into for the duration of the time that you are viewing, whether it's a song, whether it's a book, whether it's a movie, whatever, right? That's the whole point of it. When you explicitly signal and put these things, people know. And it's not whether or not it's for them or against them. People are just tired of that. I'll tell you what, like I'm tired of it. It's not left. It doesn't matter what it is, even stuff that's like in my favor. I was like, you didn't need to put that in there. I was having a good time, right? I was having a good time, and then you reminded me that the real world exists. So when you create this world, when you world build, whether it be not just in literature, when you're world building with your songs, you will organically imprint your Weltanschauung, your worldview, into that world for your viewer to inhabit, whether you try it or not. It will happen whether you like it or not. When I write my stories, I'm not trying to do anything. I'm just trying to write cool, weird, spooky, violent stories, right? I'm just trying to write some cool stories. But when like leftoids read them, they're like, this is completely latent with problematic, because I make authoritative figures good guys. I make men strong and women beautiful. I make evil monsters ugly and fat and grotesque. I make the good guys kill them, right? So when my Weltanschauung goes into my story, whether I try it, and trust me, like if there's one thing I know about, it's reading people's story. I've probably read 1,000 stories in the last year, right? And overwhelmingly, because of who I am and what the Bizarre Archives is, we get overwhelmingly stories from right of center people, and all of them, I've become aware of it, have these like inherent ontologically traditionalist and right-wing and nationalist vibes in their stories, even when they're not trying. The king is a good guy. The hero is strong. He's handsome. The women are always kind and gentle and beautiful. It's like all of these kinds of things. Hierarchy is it goes in with the presupposition that hierarchy is good and nature is just, that there are like hereditary things are positive and tradition is good. These are things that people bake into their stories without even trying, because that's just what their worldview is. And guess what? When people read that or watch that or hear that, they pick up on that and they internalize it and they understand it. They just don't understand it in an explicit way of exposition. They don't need it explicitly told to them. They can view it and they can inhabit the world and they understand it. You know what I mean? Without saying anything really. You know what I mean? So I would say to people, when you're creating art, remember that you are creating a fantasy. You are creating a world to be immersed in. Whatever your tradition or whatever your format, whatever it is that you create, that's what you're doing. And regardless of whether or not you try it, your worldview will become the building blocks of that immersive world. So you don't have to create explicit stuff. So if you want to make something pro-white, if you want to make something right-wing, you want to make something left-wing, if you want to make some degenerate communist shit, like if you're a degenerate communist, it doesn't matter what you create, it will be degenerate communist. If you're based and awesome like we are, whatever you create is going to be based and awesome. So you don't even got to worry about it. Just tell a good story, write a good song, and it will come out reflective of your worldview.
Yes, exactly. All right. Anybody else got any thoughts?
If it's okay, I'd like to go ahead and read some of what Plebs wrote in my Telegram chat. Is that cool with everybody? And then maybe if somebody has any thoughts on that, they can respond to it.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, because he took the time to like type all this out, and I really appreciate that. If you're listening, Plebs, shout out to you. Thank you for this. So, and again, this is not coming from me. This is coming from someone in my chat that typed all this out. So here's what he said. Artists have to find their I scrolled down too far. Okay. WAC is heavily decentralized, and I get that. Creating a single home for all is next to impossible. It's hard to follow artists because they are on dozens of different platforms. Their music is scattered. Their lives are going in all different directions. WAC does kind of feel like a closed loop to some followers. Artists have to find their platform to interact with fans. Most artists are not interactive with old and new listeners. You have to interact heavily in your own chat rooms, verbally and text. WAC can only do so much. It's up to the artist to spend a few minutes every week to engage people. Talk with them about anything besides your music, poetry, artwork, if necessary. Talk with the people in chats. Humanize yourself. A little self-deprecation goes a long way too. That kind of humor elicits big responses. Most of you should know that. We all see what is coming. High inflation, high gas prices, lots of bad things going on, and nothing on the horizon to save anyone. Maybe start talking about these events and how followers feel. What they are doing, you have to pull followers out of their shells. It's a two-way street. Artists, by my partial definition, are introverted. Followers need and desire that one-on-one acknowledgement, even if it's online only and lasts just a few seconds. Call all followers out by name. It's a big deal to them. Good to see you, so-and-so, or whatever you want. Just a few minutes a week. Does your religious beliefs involve prayer? Set up an open prayer for followers. Do live streams of you practice playing a new instrument for an hour. Or art. It may sound horrible and it may look horrible, but show them you are trying and this is your first step. Then ask them to do the same and share back in return. People love it. Trust me, people do not want polished professionals or anything close. Set up dozens of various ideas to engage followers. Travel short distances to perform on street corners, grocery stores, malls, nursing homes, flea markets, coffee shops, friends' homes, pubs, local parks, near beaches with permission of the city park. Handing out business cards for people to find your music. Film it, be bold, bring these experiences back and talk about it. If you find an open farm homestead, see if you can film your time doing what they do, plant a garden, learn what to feed certain livestock and chickens. Learn how to can, jar, and the various types of vegetables. Find unique ways to prepare vegetables like non-fish sushi rolls, butcher chickens, rabbits, goats, cows. Share that with viewers. A dozen WAC members could do this on their own and each upload videos of their personal experience. Never say, well, that person already made a video of it. Go do it too. So much more to share with the world besides what you do as an artist. Burnout is real. Time off has to happen, but so is metamorphosis. Life is not a one-time event for any one of us. We have to continuously change. Could be marriage or having children. Could be a change of music genre. Could be a change of employment. Summer is here. I think many want to take time off to enjoy it instead of being on the internet. Everything goes in cycles of up and down. I've seen it with all the other affiliated US European groups online. Their viewer numbers have retracted considerably as well. New viewers, that is the real issue. WAC and members must find ways to reach out to normies. I've already been talking to my niece. Linking WAC musicians' songs. Humanizing each of you. Leaving a positive impression. Slowly planting tree seeds, not a seasonal vegetable garden. Just interjecting really quick here. Thank you for that, plebs, for spreading the word. We really appreciate it. Okay, and last part of this is I've explained to her how this country uses organizations to persecute. If you don't worship BLM, J's, and LGBT, you are attacked and blacklisted. Then move on to explaining positive white European culture and how these subversive, well-funded organizations are trying to destroy the moral fabric of our society. WAC is trying to save and promote it. My niece gets it. She never had anyone point it out or just talk openly about it. We need to carefully cultivate minds, one at a time. Let them come back to ask questions, not force feed all at once. It's all on God's timeline, not ours. And so that's the end of his message. Do you guys have anything you want to say to that? I just wanted to read that because it was such a like a long and well thought out message, and I really appreciate someone taking the time to type all that out. So because he couldn't make the stream. So
Could you repeat that? No, I'm kidding.
like,
That's wonderful wisdom to like wholesome wisdom to respond to there. And this is exactly the kind of thing we need, is more audience engagement. Now, I talk about engaging with other camps in the movement, but let's engage with our audience. So I haven't been doing any streaming on American Zarathustra. I'm desperately trying to get back into that as I navigate things in my life right now. But this is beautiful. This is quite what and that's the advice that I needed. You know, I have all kinds of songs I'm working on. I thought, well, according to his advice, I should just turn on the stream and just jam out and share it with the audience and let them listen and say, hey, I like this or that, or, you know, just kind of connect, you know, be a community, be friends, you know, online. And so I appreciate those words. Well thought out and well said.
Totally, yeah. I could jump in here. Like I love my anons, like my followers. Like I always try and, you know, like be really nice to them, because I really appreciate that. You know, even if anybody like listens to my song, leaves me a nice comment or something. And in the last like week or two, like 2 people have like sent me like personal sort of like, you know, covers of you know, songs I've written, and it sort of like blows my mind. Like it's like I can't believe it, you know. And I find that kind of thing really moving. So I always try to you know, you can get kind of lost in the sort of e-celeb culture and the politics of this whole, you know, movement, and it's really annoying. But yeah, like I just like normal people, and I try to basically encourage anybody who's you know, making music, or I just try to speak to people like they're like normal people, basically. Like I think everybody should adopt that approach, because otherwise you'll get lost in this like silly game of like, you know, upcomies on Twitter, or, you know, who likes my tweet, or I don't care about any of that stuff. Like I really don't care. I mean, it's nice and everything, but what I really like is when you can kind of connect with somebody like over, or when you can you can kind of relate to somebody over, you know, just a song, or, you know, whatnot. So yeah, the rest of the stuff, you know, I don't really know about like what.
Hey, so speaking of engaging with the audience, I need to read a couple things off of Entropy over here. Thank you guys on Entropy for sending some support our way. Slots with $3 said it's okay to just not be anti-white. Thank you, Slots. Slots has been a big supporter for a long time, so we greatly appreciate it. He does a lot of good work within the broader community as well. And Niels with $6. Take my money, you mad lads and ladies. Thank you, Niels. Love your music, my friend. All right. Anybody have any other thoughts? Anything they want to say?
I just want to say that, like, it's been an honor to be part of this discussion. I like having talks like this because, it's easy for people to get demoralized in these times. And especially when you talk to like-minded people, like creative types are their own type of person. You create because not even like it, yes, it would be nice to earn a living off of it or to get paid, but I think a lot of or actually all of us probably started expecting to never get paid. And realistically, me as an artist, like I never expected to get paid. I still don't expect to get paid, but I still do agree that WAC as an organization needs to be better funded to succeed in a broader scope of things. But anyways, that aside, I like having these discussions because it does rally the troops a bit, and it's nice to not feel alone when you're a creative type of person and you're feeling the same way. You realize, oh wow, a lot of people feel the same way I do, and it can actually be kind of inspiring in my opinion. And I do agree that like the best art does come from times of struggle, and that struggle is like necessary to gain strength. And I've always said that. I probably sound like a broken record because I've said that a lot in the past, but I still feel that way just as much now as I did like 2 years ago when I probably said it on Tap or something when I was a guest, So yeah, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in.
You need to put out a new song. I'm
working on it. I've been actually
You're complaining about my demos and
Jackie, you need to put out a song. How long has it been? Like 2 years?
Right?
No, I've really enjoyed this conversation as well. It's like it's good. It's kind of almost cathartic, So, but here's the white pill. Look, yeah, it's been a rough patch, but like you've got to remember we've come such a long way. Like people who were here back in, like I wasn't here in 2018, but 2019, like we have accomplished stuff. It's just how do we go forward? You know what I mean? So hail all, and thank you.
Yeah, I think in closing for me, I think that people kind of get caught up in this this is-ought distinction where they get too focused on how things ought to be and not like focusing on how things are, And I think people have to kind of temper their expectations of the future and reality around you and whatnot and what's actually accomplishable and whatnot. But I think we need to start thinking in terms of victories rather than the victory, capital V, because, I think there's never going to be a like grand, total Aryan victory where we all live happily forever. But there are so many like victories. We've had so many, and there's so many more to come. And if you're like paying attention, if you sort of look at it like that, then it's you don't get as blackpilled, And I think we have made such incredible steps, with our it's not a movement, but it's I don't know. It's just like a cultural. I don't know. I don't even know what to call it. We're just like white people are going through this phase where, we're developing an immunity system, and we're going through we're being put under a lot of pressure, but like, coal makes diamonds, so to speak, and we're going to come out, things will get better in the future, but I think we have to be sort of realistic about what the future will look like. But
victory or death. No, I'm just kidding.
But I think like to me, we're all like struggling, but honestly, like the struggle gives your life purpose and meaning. Honestly, if you didn't have like a struggle, then like I don't know, like what do you have to look forward to? The latest Marvel movie every couple months? Like I don't know. Like to me, I think that the struggle is really, I don't know. I think it's good for us, to be honest. But yeah.
I kind of thought that was your life, Lord Wolf Shoes,
Well,
I'm joking.
I mean, like that was my life before I got into this, and I'm just like my life is so much more fulfilling now.
Hey, when's Star Wars 7 coming out?
Star Wars 7?
Oh, don't even go there.
2007. That came out in 2015. What are you talking about?
I don't know. I'm joking.
Well, I'll just add some closing thoughts, and then I have to take my dog out. So, yeah, I want to first thank Jeff for doing this show. I'm lucky that I had some time off today and was able to jump on. So I will do a show on American Zarathustra, responding to the theme of this whole thing. Is this a movement or is it a social club? And I'll read a lot of the responses that I got on Telegram. They keep coming in, and I'm trying to kind of crystallize what's the overall message, what's the general theme that people are coming across with. There's a lot, though. There's a lot of different ideas, and everybody has something important to say. So I think when I do that show, it'd be nice to have, maybe a little panel, and you guys are invited as well. But yeah, so stay tuned for that. And once again, thanks to Jeff and thanks to everybody for coming on and discussing this.
All right. Anybody else have any closing words? Cat Hugger, you good? Still with us?
Sorry, I thought about if I since I'm German, if I should actually say how these German words are pronounced, but I forgot the word that they used.
Oh yeah, I couldn't even begin to tell you. I think it meant worldview though.
Weltanschauung. Weltanschauung.
Weltanschauung, genau. Und
Weltanschauung.
Weltanschauung.
Okay.
Anschauung. There are two U there. And Gesamtkunstwerk and Übermensch. I'm getting kind of tired of this. It's painful being a German in this spheres sometimes.
I can imagine. Well, I'm sorry for us mispronouncing it. We try. We do try.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for tuning into this. I think this was good. I think we needed to. I saw everybody talking about Donald's comment, and it's just a general vibe that was going around. I think a lot of people have been feeling. So it's good to kind of put a lot of this out there and just having an open discussion about it. And I like to keep it going. If any, in the comments of this over on the social media, wherever, if anybody has any thoughts about it, feel free to put it over there, and we'll try to keep it going, because there's a lot. We touched on a ton of stuff here. Someone saying we're all over the place. Well, welcome to listening to artists have a discussion. There's so many layers to all of this stuff, and you could do hours on any one of the topics we touched on, but the overall point is, I think that I think we're going in the right direction. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that aren't coming to fruition yet. Like I said, WAC is working on a big film project, and I'm excited about the things that are coming. And there's always going to be little frustrations and things, but I think that there's a lot of positive things on the horizon, and I look forward to digging more deeply into that. So yeah, thank you all again for listening, and we'll catch you again sometime soon.
Peace out.
Not all.
Good
Good night, everyone.